I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're exploring a powerful book. It is called God, Demons, and the Meaning of Life, Finding God in This Demonic World. It is written by a terrific author. His name is Richard Lansing. This powerful true life spiritual journey challenges readers to look beyond the surface of reality and reconnect with the Creator already living within them, blending faith, personal trials, and spiritual awakening. This book offers a roadmap for discovering purpose in a chaotic world. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Richard, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you kindly.
Great to have you on the show. This is a very powerful book. How did your lifelong search for purpose shape the message of this book?
Well, it didn't start yesterday. For many, many years, I've always known I've had a calling. I didn't quite understand it. I've also known that something very special was going to occur with me. Time went on, and I had this insatiable desire to understand the spirit world simultaneously. So I purposely started reading some books, but I taught myself how to go in. This is in my early 20s, mind you, and I just turned 70 on the 5th, so it's been a few years. So um, I got a book and studied how to go into a trance, and I also understood that the small voice in your head is connected to your spirit. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to pray. But I did learn something more than that, but I'll explain as I go along. Um, I also understood that why was there so many different religions on the planet? And it ranges from 16,000 to 100,000 religions across the world. Nobody can define how long, I mean, how many there really are. And I also discovered there was at least 500 different Christian faiths in the United States alone. So it made me wonder, could the devil, he apparently did his work. So why would, or could there have been multiple ways he could have worded things? How, what I'm getting at is, towards the end of scriptures, it's God warns anybody that would add or subtract from the book that his wrath would come upon them. So I took it a step further and said, what could the devil have done to mix it up even more? So on that basis, I wanted to infiltrate. So I taught myself how to go into a trance, believe it or not. And now I'm in my early 20s, right? So
Yeah.
I'm nice and dumb while I'm doing all this. So I learned how to do it. And I used to go into my bedroom where I lived in PA. I'm originally from there. And I picked a focal point on the wall and concentrated on it forever and for hours at a time. But anyway, I got to the point, and basically all you're doing is taking every thought out of your mind when you're in a trance, except the little voice in your head. That's really all a trance is. So that takes concentration. It's not something that occurs overnight. So I took the time to do it. But while I was doing this, all of a sudden in my home, I start hearing knocks all over the walls. I mean, nothing light. These are big knocks, right? And I happen to be reading a book saying this author would sit down and drink coffee with him. I never understood what that meant. But ceiling fans in my house would start spinning without any electricity in it. Things flying across the room. Did you ever see The Exorcist? A lot of similar things started happening. So what I did, it was always noises. Then I started seeing a darkness with peripheral vision off to the side. And every time I'd go look, they're gone. So I started wondering more and more about it. So one particular night I go into my bedroom again where I learned how to go into a trance. I was afraid because I knew sooner or later that, not sooner, but I knew something would happen. So I said to myself, you have to count to three because if you see something, it's going to scare you to death and you're going to scream. So what happened was I went into the trance. By that time, I could get into it within seconds. Okay. So I left the door open at 1 o'clock Friday night in the morning, and I went into my trance because I was afraid, and I put the light on coming through from a hallway. So I go into my trance, and all of a sudden I say, "What have I been dealing with?" And instantly, with peripheral vision right to my left, I see something forming, and I'm scared half to death. So I said, I got to do it. I've been doing this long enough. I want to see what's going on. I turn, I look, I'm 3 feet away. This being, it was not a silhouette. It was a pitch black solid figure that I could see its hair, its shoulders, arms, legs, feet, all the way down. What was mystifying was its face was filled in as if it didn't have identity. If you could put putty on the indentations of your face, you would it was no identity. So that made me curious. And why was it pitch black? So I looked it up. I started researching even more, and I found out, which most Christians will know, that there was a band of angels that came down out of the heaven and had sex with women on the earth, and they formed what was called the Nephilim, giants on the earth. So as a result of it, God gave a commandment to these, I'll call them demon angels that came down and had sex, that they were no longer allowed to take fleshly form. So why did I see black figures? Well, it just so happens on my mother's side of the family, her and her two sisters they knew things that would happen before they would. And I'll give you one example. My aunt was dying, my mother's younger sister, and while she was being bathed wherever it was, a hospital, she saw two angels standing up in front of them. And the nurses that were with her saw them. One of them quit because they couldn't handle what they saw. So that happens. And then another sister of hers went and saw a playpen in her house, and she saw a black figure standing in front of it. She ran towards it. Instantly, an airplane came down in a barracks. Her husband was in the service. Now, mind you, this is 60 years ago. And instantly an airplane came down into the barracks where he was eating chow, killed her husband when she saw the black figure. So these are the kind of things I would see. So when I start hearing and seeing all these things, I told my wife at the time. She didn't believe me. She didn't believe a word of it. So I took her into the bedroom where I would go into a trance, and I sat us both up against the headboard like this. And look, I was pretty dumb when I did this, but anyway, in my mind, I said, make her a believer. She's not a believer. Instantly, in front of her face, right in front of her face, you hear, oh,
Wow.
that's the exorcist part. All these animal noises right in front of her face. She screams bloody murder as if her throat was being cut. What I didn't know that across the hallway in my children's bedrooms, and they were probably around 3, 4 years old, and what I didn't know, those same animal noises are in their ears loud enough to wake them up. It woke them up. They jumped up screaming, running across the hallway, pounding on the door because they're scared to death. My wife, I believe you. I believe every word you said. Burn all the things like tarot cards and all this stuff I was playing with. So I did. But what happened was, excuse me, I'm a little, if I may.
Absolutely. You've been talking a while. The story is amazing, and I'm sure our viewers are fascinated by it. But continue now that you've had a sip of water.
Yes, sir. So what I found out was I didn't need to go into a trance once I invited them.
Mm.
They started showing up on their own. So it started scaring me half to death. And that goes along with the scriptures as well. God only permits them so much interference with our lives, but it's enough to do what the God of this world wants to happen to a degree, that being Satan. So I couldn't get rid of them. So I was just dumb enough to think if I moved, that I'd lose them. And that was pretty dumb. Anyway, I moved to another house. Next thing you know, I start once again start seeing black figures the corner of my eye, and I said, I can't get rid of them. I couldn't pray them away. Once you invite them, you can't pray them away because your will summoned them, so
Right.
to speak. So what did I do? Well, simultaneously, a relative was teaching me about the Pentecostal faith. And by the way, I went to Catholic school for the first 8 years of my schooling as well. And I was studying multiple religions because why are the religions so different? How could you have 500 Christian faiths if there's only one truth? Why would that be? And you keep learning that the devil did his job. But what happened was I had to go and I called a minister of the Pentecostal faith that I had met a week prior. And so I called him up. He starts giggling over the phone saying, I'm an exorcist. I do this all the time. Really? So I invited him over. He comes to my home. He has the appropriate dress on, the accoutrements, and he had a Bible with him and holy water. And everywhere he would go, he would ask me, "Where in the house did you see these figures?" I showed him. He did the praying and sprinkled holy water everywhere he was at. And instantly they're gone. I could not pray them a way to save my life. When he came in like that, he got rid of them that quick.
Wow.
So I promised the Lord then I would never do it again.
Yeah.
But I had one experience because I was still dumb enough. Somebody didn't believe me, and I was over somebody's house, and they said, "Prove it to me, what you did." So just dumb enough, and I'm still young, right? So I said, "Watch your chandelier," and all of a sudden the chandelier starts going like this, right,
Wow.
back and forth, and then I said, "Watch your TV set," and the TV starts changing channels by itself, and then there was a radio on a stand in a room, and it turns on without electricity going through it.
Wow.
So that knocked my socks off. I mean, imagine seeing ceiling fans going 100 miles an hour, and you think by that time, and I'm jumping around chronologically here, but imagine you see your ceiling fan in your house spinning 100 miles an hour faster than it was designed to go without electricity. So, because I checked the switch, it was off. And I'm saying, whoa, what's going on here? So finally, I get rid of them all. And I started getting involved with more studies. I studied the Roman Empire, which taught me a lot about the Catholic faith. I studied many different ones, but I also kept realizing the inner voice. So what I concluded was if I rid my mind of everything and I got the demons, what if I rid my mind of evil?
Yeah.
So I did that. Not only doing that, but there were um, people in my life I did not permit to be in my life anymore that had negative energy. Incidentally, I have moments when I sense energy as well. And I'll get involved with what the Lord does with me currently. So, um, where was I going with this?
Basically saying you could invite the devil into your life or the
So
demon,
clear
the
your mind.
darkness. Yeah.
You're right. Clear your mind, right? Well, when I was able to, what occurs is first you have to understand um, how God speaks to you. But before that happened, I cleared my mind of all evil, all of it. It's kind of mind control, but it's still effective. It didn't mean that I'm making things up. So the moment I cleared my mind of all evil, a voice came to me and said, "Write a book." It was the Lord telling me to write a book. I know the difference. So so I wrote the book, and then he put me in isolation. So I was by myself for quite a while in my home, and what he was doing is let me explain. Here's a good example for you, and it will make sense to you. And I'm making this up as I go. We have a time constraint.
Good. We're good on time.
Okay, very good. So um, let's say you look in a mirror and you don't like what you see. I dyed my hair too much.
Mhm.
I made it up. Anyway, anyway, and then that's thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
And it could be something worse you didn't like, but
Right.
let's say that was it. So you may say it to somebody else. I
Right.
don't like this part of me, right? And then
Yeah.
on the other side is the evil ones are planting thoughts in your mind constantly,
Hmm.
constantly. They're planning doubt. They're planning distractions. They're planning worthlessness, evil
Hmm.
thoughts. It goes on and on. The
Yeah.
whole reason is to flood your mind with noise. Now you turn the television on. That's more chaos, filling your mind up at the same time.
Yeah.
What is going on is we are, and I don't know how the right adjective or verb for this, but we are swimming in demons. They're
Yeah.
all around us. And so how did they know, or why do they do it? They have been around for thousands of years. So thank you. So um, they have been around all this time. So all this is in your mind. So guess what's going on and why they do it? Because most every day or every other day, God is actually speaking to you.
Mm.
He does it with whispers. He does it with synchronicities. He does it with intuitive insight. He does it so many different ways. And what the idea of isolation is, he gets you to clear your mind of everything. Then he speaks to you so you recognize his voice.
Mm.
That's profound.
Yeah.
So what happens is once you go back into the real world after you know his voice, then you know it when the chaos re-enters.
Right.
So because it's distinctive. And so that's how I learned about him. And there's been so many miracles, but see, there were some questions that arose to me when I started wondering, could the devil have put pieces of truth even in heretical manuscripts? Could he have done it? And if I tell you this, you judge it.
Right.
So I'm reading the Book of Thomas, right? And between the scholars, it's debated whether it's an apocryphal book or a Gnostic gospel. I don't think they know yet. But it was also thought of that it would predate the Gospel of Mark. So that would be the earliest manuscript they had if it were true. So I'm reading the Book of Thomas. All of a sudden, felt a spiritual diminish within me, almost like I was getting upset. I didn't understand it. And then all of a sudden I was lifted back up. And then I read, as I was continue reading, I read anybody that had this lowering and then lifting would understand the meaning of this text. The Gnostics believed that they could talk to the Lord with their spirits. That's what evoked me to do what I did or thought the way I did. So so I read that if you understood the meaning of this text, you would never taste death. That's what
Mm.
it said to me. And it happened to me before I read it.
Mm.
So that made me even more curious.
Yeah.
So I kept realizing so many different things. So once the Lord told me that he told me I have a purpose. And in effect, what is occurring is I'm going through a spiritual awakening. So the moment God speaks to you, that in effect is the narrow path that leads to everlasting life. Does God speak to somebody that's going to hell?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. Now, I'm not going to sit back and tell you I have every answer. There's going to be a lot of times where we have to die to know the truth, the
Right.
total truth. So many different miracles started happening to me. For example, and the Lord was starting to speak to me more, and I could recognize him more and more. So he says to me one time, I'm in my living room. He says, "I'm going to show you my joy." And I giggled, okay, I don't know if it's true. And all of a sudden, and this knocked me on my butt, inside my chest, I felt joy. And I said, how could you feel joy in the heart? I could halfway explain it. And then that joy came out of my chest and hovered for 5 or 6 seconds. Then it dissipated, it's gone. I put my arms in the air. I praised the Lord and I started crying because
Wow.
that's what happens to me when the Lord's with me. And um, so in effect, also, he told me another time, he says, I'm going to be letting something happen to you that's in effect evil. and you're not going to be able to pray it away right away. And he was acting like it was a test. So I'm standing in front of a recliner at the time. Did you ever feel a concussion from like a M80 if you're just close enough to feel the pressure?
Like,
Well, yes. Well, that kind of same effect smacked me in the face, pushed me back into my chair. And the thought that was being pushed into me harder was my book was a farce. I was lied to. Nobody. And that's what he was trying to put in my mind, the evil ones, right? So I called my original publisher that published my book, and I said to him, "How's my book doing?" I didn't forgive me. He didn't answer. He didn't answer because he was on a trip to California. So he was in California. He left his phone in his briefcase. So he calls me the next day, and here I'm sweating bullets the whole time. Is this true? Because the strength of the power of the thought was so strong. It's the first time I couldn't push it away. And I screamed bloody murder, Lord, get rid of these evil ones. And it wouldn't. I said Jesus at the time, but they didn't go away. And so I'm left overnight until 11 o'clock in the morning. The publisher calls me from California. Oh, sorry, Rich. Sorry. The phone was in my briefcase and everything's fine. I don't know what you're worried about. He was oblivious to this
right.
happening to me. And so I cried again because it was such a relief. But the idea of the test wasn't because God didn't know what was going to happen. He was proving to me that I couldn't be defeated by the evil ones because of the purpose he put within me. Now, now something for people to think about, and I don't really mean the point, but when God blew the breath of life into us, he made a living soul. Okay? But something else occurred to me during God's creation. When he created man, he was using his Holy Spirit as well, just to make man, right? So now you have the Holy Spirit in us to start with, but it may be inactive until you bring Christ into the picture. That in itself seems to be a course to awaken you. But the second way is through Christ, is to rid your mind like I did, and pray when you have the emphasis of your mind all gone. I mean, and then God will speak to you. So imagine if God had to leave you alone and get rid of everybody around you that could influence you negatively. I ended up in Ohio because God told me to. He didn't tell me. The people that say God tells me, I never wanted to believe it anyway. But he does. He does. But I'm not about self glorification at all. And to give you an example, real quick, um, when the voice came to me and told me to write a book simultaneously on television, there's a publisher on there, and I hurried up and wrote the information down. And when I called them up, they were trying to psych me up to write a book quicker using AI. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. This isn't about money. I said, this is about the glory of God. And instantly, I'm in a different room, and a big screen TV turns on full blast, and it was a disruption. I understood that they would always try to distract you, and they wanted me to believe that the book would do nothing. So I pushed it out of my head, and I left it at that. But that joy, for example, my wife, who's sitting next to me now, um, I was told that a woman would be coming into my life, that I would have a love of all loves, and she would be helping me in my purpose. So this future wife of mine drives 150 miles north because I was near Columbus, Ohio at the time, and she's where I'm sitting now. But anyway, I'm in her house. But anyway, she was 10 minutes behind me. She wanted to go to a conservatory up in the Columbus area. So I happened to be sitting on a park bench getting there 10 minutes before her. And so on her phone, she told me walks towards me on the bench. The moment I laid eyes on her, the joy in my heart God showed me came out of my chest. Instantly, I knew she was the one he was telling me about.
Yeah.
So that occurred. So he also told me that he was going to give me glimpses of the spirit world.
Mm.
When he told me to write the book and then instantly told me that, I felt a lifting in some part of me that lifted, and my head was like this, to this level that was right above me, and I'm seeing all these. I think they were demons. Okay, they were spirits, and they're going across my ceiling, and all of a sudden I realized something, and I took another look to the right. God was there, not in an image of a being, but more like a cloud. And my spirit was lifted, and I knew it was him. And instantly I cried again. Every time the Holy Spirit hits me, I cry.
Yeah.
And so I knew it was him. And um, what he's telling me, and this is not about me, but he told me that I was going to be harvesting people going out into the world because we're running out of time. And he was using me to go out into the world. And it hasn't started yet because there's still a maturation process that's going on with me. That you'd be surprised how he does it. He purges, he brings negative emotions out of you, and then while they're surfacing, somehow he can take them off of you and replenish them with more of his spirit. That's how he does it. So that amazed me because I'm still progress at work. Um, so this is the kind of stuff he does. The energy is always with me. For example, I was preparing last night because there's so many different things that happen to me that it's hard to amass all these years of studying and remember what order everything is in. So when I had to add another page to what I was just turning to look at, I got hit with the Holy Spirit telling me I needed to say that. So this is how he does it with me. That is confirmation to me that I'm speaking truth. That's what I've learned with that. So um okay. So
It's an
as we go,
amazing story you've told us. We're down to our like last 2 minutes. So let
cool.
me ask you this, Richard, before we leave you today. I think it's an amazing story, your life story, the applications it can have on other people's lives, I think is profound. What do you hope readers take away from your book when they turn that last page?
The A different way to get a straight, not a straighter, but a more distinctive path to the Lord. That is in essence what I'm trying to do. And so it shows them almost a mechanical way using Christ as well. Don't misunderstand, but the mechanics of how to do it. It's a process, but it
Yeah.
works.
Right.
So that's the main message, to try to get more people to, I mean, if atheists see this, they're not going to believe a word of it,
Right. Right.
right? So, but I can prove it to them. I mean, too many people would even come into my house. One came to stay overnight. They left at 2 o'clock in the morning because their bed's jumping up and down. So that kind of stuff is what's happening. So the Lord's been showing me all along what He wants me to do.
Yep.
And He's telling me so many big things are supposed to happen, but I'm not going to sit back and tell them to you now.
Yeah.
But,
Well, it's in
but
the book, and I think that's important. You've put down a lot of great information and valuable lessons for our readers and for our viewers. And your own experiences are really quite unique. And I've always been told by members of the clergy, be careful not to invite the devil into your life. And apparently you did that for a while and cast him away. And then were able to invite God into your life and now are sharing his message through the pages of this great book. The name of the book is God, Demons, and the Meaning of Life, Finding God in This Demonic World. The True Life Story, Finding God. It is written by Richard Lansing, and it is highly recommended. Richard, thank you so much for joining us here today.
thank you kindly, sir.
I appreciate your time, your insight, your great faith, and the wonderful work you've done in spreading the word through this wonderful book. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.